Alright guys, welcome to the first official Swanson fly tying YouTube vid. We'll see where this channel goes, but I'm excited. But for right now, we're just going to stick to simple tie here today. We're going to go with the Clouser Minnow, one of my favorites for where I fish. I'm going to tie it white on white today. So what I've done is I've taken a pair of pliers and bent a Arex light stinger size 4 just to give it a little bit more keeling action. So without further ado, let's get started. I'll be using 100 strand GSP here, pretty standard, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my thread clip, tag this guy down and make sure my vise is on correctly. Wow, there's a little bit of extra wiggle there. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a minute to, well, first off, okay, here we go. We're going to tie in medium dumbbell eyes, and we're going to put them in right about here. Give it, let's see if you can see that, give it some figure 8 wraps. It's going to be a little difficult at first for a minute here until we get a few more wraps in there. It's going to be wobbling on me a bit, but get some good wraps in there. You want to make sure these guys are secure. And I'm taking a few wraps around just to tighten it. I'm just going to follow through one more time. It's going to be a little bit harder to secure just because there's no materials on the hook and it's trying to grasp onto a really thin wire hook here. However, I am fully confident that we can make it work. Let's try that one more time. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is I like to add a little bit of flash to my Clousers. I know some people like to keep it natural. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a Danville Mylar tinsel size 12. I'm going to cut off a few inches there. That was interesting. Cut off just a few inches, and first off, keep this guy on lockdown. Back to what I was saying, we're going to tie our Mylar tinsel in down here, all along the shank. Make sure it's not coming out. We're actually going to tie this pretty far back. We're going to bring it back up front, the thread that is, and I'm going to take some real thin wire, pretty much whatever wire you have that'll look nice on your gold tinsel. This is kind of a, it's almost a rose gold color. I don't know how to describe it. I don't have the package on me right now. But we're going to tie that back right to our point with the tinsel. And now we get to have some fun, because now it is time for bucktail. We'll see if I can show you on this camera. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select a clump, keeping in mind I don't want it too thick on the hook, but I also need to grab a little extra because I'll be preening out some of the smaller fibers. There we go. That took me a minute. So we got our fiber clumps. So I'm just going to take it in between my fingers, right? Like this, and then just pull all those fibers out. And I'm going to do this over here where you can't see me, just because that's where my trash can is. But once we have that, a good piece of deer hair right there, and we're going to choose our length. I'm feeling a little ambitious. I'm going to tie this a little bit longer than I normally do. So I'm going to mark my spot. I'm going to trim it off. Buttons are trimmed. And I'm going to take a couple real loose wraps to just get this in here. And one of the keys is to keep your bucktail on the top half of the hook shank, right? You don't want it looking uneven, and it really gives it a nice solid look. And then what I'm going to do now that I have that loosely in, so I'm going to go through with tighter wraps and compress that bucktail as much as I can to prep for our tinsel and wire. Just like that. I'm going to bring it all the way up front here, throw in a double half hitch, if I can get around these dumbbell eyes. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop my bobbin in the cradle and get ready with our mylar thread. And what I'm looking for when I start wrapping this tinsel, sorry, I think I just called it thread. What I'm looking for with this tinsel is a nice, even application. I don't want any gaps in my wrapping. It just gives it a cleaner look overall. So we're wrapping all the way up. We're actually going to stop there. Make sure you keep tension. Can't tell you how many times I've had these things accidentally slip out of my fingers. And this mylar tinsel just goes everywhere. It's really depressing, if we're being honest here. I'm just going to reverse tie that in. Put a little pressure on our dumbbell eyes. Hopefully they'll stay, or help them stay a little bit. Trim the excess, and throw in another double half hitch so we don't lose our progress here. And now we're going to come in with our wire. Now, for comfort's sake, I think I'm going to wrap the wire on my finger. We'll see if we clipped off enough. Very similar thing with the wire. You just want nice, consistent wraps. All the way up. Tighten that back down. keep our pressure. Get a few good reps. Really cinch that bad boy down. We don't want it going anywhere. Helicopter that off. Let's see how that looks. All right, looking pretty good. Now, I'm just gonna take a few more reps, just because this dumbbell I really didn't want to listen to me. You can skip this step if you were more successful and got it the first time. But if yours aren't secure, I'd really suggest getting it there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come in with more bucktail, and we're going to clip the top, or we're going to clip the bucktail for the top of the fly. And I'm going to get just a hair, sorry, pun kind of intended, just a hair thicker than the tail. I'm not sure exactly why I do that. It just seems to look nicer at the end. I don't like having my Clousers super sparse. I like them to have a little bit of something there, but not too much where the bucktail stops doing what it needs to do. So I'm going through and cleaning out the butt ends again, and a couple wacky fibers. I'm going to find my length that I like, and I'm going to trim the ends square. This is going to be the semi-tricky part. I'm going to get a material transfer going. There we go. Now we're going to tie in our bucktail. I'm leaving just a little bit extra up top there because I want to be able to cinch it down. Okay, so note that I'm cinching it down behind the eyes. This is something that I do when I tie these because I just like the extra security it gives on the finished fly, having it tied down both in back and in front. And again, when we tie in this top guy, we want to make sure it's nice and even. Just going down to the halfway point down that hook shank. So now I'm making more, believe it or not, figure 8 wraps, trying to just confine all this scrap bucktail up at the eyelet here, or eye of the hook. I want this all in one spot so I can get a few good wraps and just really make sure these guys are down and not going anywhere. So I can give them a few good wraps. Once we do that, come in with some smaller scissors. I'm just going to trim this up just so it's a little bit easier and cleaner. Always seems like there's a few hairs that don't want to listen to me when I want them to stick down and just give it up. They are some tricky spots, but here we go. That's looking pretty close. We're just going to wrap this the rest of the way down, and we're going to just take some thread wraps here, make it a nice evenly tapered nose. Really finishes the fly up nice. I'm going to cover any excess scraps we have up here. Make sure all these guys are down tight, so this bucktail is really not going anywhere. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just bring it up front. We actually have one little stray here. There we go. Bring it up front and whip finish the fly off. And there you have it. I'm going to trim this real quick. There's my razor blade. Trim this carefully, right? I can't tell you how many times I've tried to go and finish a fly and trim and end up cutting all my thread wraps. It's a nightmare. Alright, last step here. Come in with your favorite head cement or UV resin, whatever floats your boat, and just give a good application to the head. Let it dry and you'll be good to go. And let's show you the finished product. And this, let's try that one more time. We'll figure it out eventually, guys. There we go. Sorry, we'll probably find a way to cut that out. And this is the Clouser Minnow. Thank you guys in advance for watching. Appreciate any comments you guys have how to make this better. Just starting out, it's real important for me that I get your guys' opinion on how we can make this work better for all of us. Thank you. See you next time.